Hey, this is Charles Onyet. I'm here with Andrew Goldfarb.
How's it going, Charles?
Pretty good. We're from IGN, and we're checking out the latest BioShock Infinite trailer. This one focuses a little bit more on Elizabeth than it does anything else. There is a lot of kind of older footage here, but there are also some new bits sprinkled in. So I am going to back up to the beginning here, and we're going to go through and pull out some details about what's going on here in Irrational's new shooter world. So this is all stuff we've basically seen before. Monument Island, where Elizabeth is being held, and you saw her statue there earlier. Here you get a look at kind of what Columbia, which is the floating city in which this shooter is set, thinks of Elizabeth. You play as Booker, a guy who comes into Columbia looking for Elizabeth. He's trying to take her back to whoever his employers are. Rescue her, in a sense. But the people of Columbia have Elizabeth imprisoned, and you can see here, do not speak to the specimen. The specimen being Elizabeth. So they don't even regard her as kind of a human. She's just a thing, an experiment almost, you would think, especially by, you know, the background here where you've got the comical Frankenstein type coils going up into the sky here.
And that's the thing. This is kind of the area where you meet Elizabeth in Monument Island. If you actually just want to back up to right,
Sure.
You were just there. Oh my God, right there. You see those quarantine things in the corner. As you're kind of approaching this central chamber early in the game, it's like past this point is 12 hours, then 24 hours, then 100 hours, and you're getting deeper and deeper to where, you know, they consider it more dangerous based on the signs. And this chart's interesting, Charles.
Yeah, so here we can see that Elizabeth has, you know, she's been growing up essentially in confinement, you know, kept under watch so that, you know, people can come in, and we'll see later, people will come in and actually, you know, just stare at her like they would at a zoo, basically. It's that kind of setup, though.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, you can see her height chart here. Just another example of the nice kind of detail you really get in the world. You know, these are things that you just pass by while you're walking through, that they don't, you know, make a point of, you know, sitting you down and telling you all this detail. But if you're there, you're observant while you're playing the game, you know, you can pick up all this detail to really get a sense of how the world works just by looking at it.
And it's interesting, too, because I think that's our first indication of how old Elizabeth actually is. It says she's 17. You know, I think she's always come across as a little bit older than that.
Yeah, I figured she was older than that. Maybe this height chart just isn't updated.
It's cut
fully.
off, yeah. Maybe she hasn't gotten any taller since then. And then this is like, as you see, like playback of creepy film, you know, obviously still photos being taken. Like, it's clear that Elizabeth has been documented for basically her entire life.
Here we see another look at the chamber, and then randomly, this is Booker taking off to go to Columbia. I don't know. I'm actually not sure why that's in the video. That doesn't seem to mix up with anything. But
you found the Easter egg.
Yeah, Easter egg, rocket ship. So this is Elizabeth in her chambers, where this is an observation window that's kind of sliding open here, you can see. So if you were an observer and wanted to look at Elizabeth, you would walk up to these windows, they would open, and there she is, you know, unaware, basically, of what's going on.
Once again, looking at pictures of Paris.
And
we get it, Liz.
Likes Paris. Irrational likes that BioShock 1 got a lot of high ratings. Here we see a lot of stuff that I think we've seen before. Elizabeth, when you first meet her and she doesn't know who you are, she's attacking you with a book.
So that book is by Rosalind Lutece, who is a character that we're going to hear more and more about. It seems like it's kind of a mysterious figure at the moment. But Principles of Quantum Mechanics, the game also begins on a quote from Lutece. So that's a character that we don't really know much about, but we do know that she warns Booker when you first arrive in Columbia. So she's behind the scenes somewhere.
So possible thematic value in the book that she is wielding. Let's move ahead here. This is actually, you see at the very start of the game when Booker approaches the lighthouse, that will take him up to Columbia. He stands over this bowl of water, and you get a look at his face, which is rare because, you know, Irrational, very dedicated to the first-person perspective, so you don't always see the character you're playing. And of course, in this game, you actually are a character. You're not just some random guy. This is Booker approaching, where it lays out the goals, and here we have Songbird, who is the protector of Elizabeth, who has some sort of strange relationship with her where it's maybe it's a parental thing, and like Songbird is acting as the parent and she's the daughter. Maybe it's a romantic thing. I don't know. I don't know what Songbird's motivations are. Very strange.
I think Ken Levine in the past has kind of compared it to like an abusive boyfriend kind of relationship. It's he's very scary though.
But here we can see Elizabeth not so happy about Songbird. She wants out of whatever kind of relationship they have, and here she sort of takes advantage of one of her powers. Well, not sort of. She does, and she warps in. She through a tear, an entirely different scenario there. So she is able to escape through her tear. And here we also see an interesting poster.
Yeah, it says "Sing praise to the Songbird." I mean, Songbird, like you were saying, not only is his relationship with Elizabeth a little ambiguous right now, but also kind of his relationship with Columbia. I mean, he's very scary and is some kind of protector figure for the town. It's not really clear if the kind of citizens of Columbia, if they revere him, if they fear him. I mean, it's kind of unknown right now.
Yeah, Songbird has a very strange relationship, not only with Elizabeth, but also, basically everyone else involved. We don't really know what the overall tone is there.
For sure.
So this is something we don't actually know what this is. This is a guy in a chair where Elizabeth, obviously looking concerned. I think that's understandable. She's standing in a giant pool of blood,
and her shirt is torn. Like she's a little worse for wear here.
Yeah, she has been. It looks like she's got some marks on her. So she's been through some kind of fight or something to reach this area, and in this medical facility that we don't quite know what it is. But Andrew, I know you had some theories as to who this might be.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really know. It's my best guess, and this is probably. I mean, we don't know, right? I would guess Francis Pinchot from this BioShock Infinite Mind and Revolt thing we just saw.
And that is a sort of primer type of book. I
Yeah,
don't know if you want to call it that. That's probably not the right term.
It's like sort of a prequel. It's on Kindle. You can read about it. You can read it right now. It's like $3, or you get it free if you pre-order the game. But in that story, there's a guy named Francis Pinchot. He's a doctor. He's doing experiments on some of the Vox Populi, and there's some interesting stuff going on with him. As the story tells you from the get-go, this isn't a spoiler, he does die in that story. So this is, this could be him. It seems a little weird, though. I feel like that probably happened way before the events of this game, so even that's unlikely. I don't know. We don't know who this guy in the beret is. We get a better look at his face coming up, where he's just bruised and bloodied. Like this guy was tortured before he died. So
yeah, and it looks like Elizabeth's approach here is to basically tear him out of there, or tear herself out. And if we look here, if we can get this grain to clear, I think you can see it there. So on the left side, it looks like there's seized boxes of munitions there, basically. So Elizabeth has torn into what I guess is probably a police station, would be my guess. The Vox Populi are the revolting faction within Columbia, and you can see assets seized, property of Vox sympathizers. So this would be, the official forces seizing their weaponry. So I guess those sympathetic with Comstock, who leads the city.
And that's almost like a BioShock Infinite Industrial Revolution, that other little pre-order game. Between each level, you can choose who to send armaments to. You can send them to the Vox or the Founders, and so it's you almost wonder if this is part of that, or related to that, rather.
All right, let's continue forward here. This is just basic stuff. That's just obviously Elizabeth pushing at Booker. You get a sense of how Booker and Elizabeth interact. During gameplay, they do interact quite often, speaking and talking and things like that. Speaking and talking are the same thing, but speaking and
they're doing both though, Charles.
Yeah, both of those things. But no, and she will, interact with you as though you were a person, not just, some personality-less entity.
Yes.
This is Comstock. That's a statue, religious leader of the city. Elizabeth, again, being pursued by Songbird. This is just a quick example, and we've gone over this many times on IGN's coverage, but of how Elizabeth will help you out in combat, where she will, give you weapons, and you can use those to fight. Probably $60, I think.
$59.99, I believe, is the MSRP.
I don't think this is free to play. So what is going on in this shot here? Because I don't think we've seen this before.
Exactly. So we've never seen this particular shot, and it's especially interesting because that's Booker. Like, I mean, it's really interesting seeing him in-game from a third-person perspective. I mean, obviously he's on the cover of the game. We've seen him in marketing materials. You see his reflection subtly, but this is really interesting. You wonder if this is from a cutscene or in what context we're seeing him. Also, his hand is bandaged. You don't know if that's his hand that has the AD tattoo. You don't know if he's been hurt or if that's been carved off in some way. I mean, this is really interesting.
Yeah, and that tattoo is something that's gone over very early in the game where he's identified as a threat, essentially, right from the beginning, which is why people are trying to attack him. But yeah, very odd for an Irrational game to have this going on in it, in an Irrational shooter. So if we go forward, we will see a few more scenes. This is just Elizabeth again interacting with Booker. Comstock giving a speech.
Now this is interesting because this is getting into some more. A lot of the stuff Irrational has shown up to this point is the stuff that we played, which is about the first 3 or so hours of the game.
Right.
Now you're seeing Elizabeth in kind of her trademark outfit that we saw, pre-release. This is one she's already changed. This seems to be later game stuff.
Yeah. And this is also an enemy we've not seen in live gameplay yet, a boy of silence.
Yeah, he's there's sort of this weird security system. He's not happy at the moment.
No, and I believe he has a special power with the giant horns on his head that he is unleashing right there. Kind of an AoE blast, a silencing AoE blast. So this is Elizabeth once again. We see some gore with the skyhook.
Brutal kills.
Another enemy type. This is actually the first time you fight this guy, I believe, in this situation, is when you get the Murder of Crow's Vigor that lets you throw crows.
And I believe Elizabeth says that enemy is...
Which you see right here.
That's true. And I believe Elizabeth in the game calls that enemy a crow. Now that's actually one of our best looks at Songbird as he kind of lands there and how, like,
again, another
humanoid his frame is, like...
Yeah, is there actually... Is it purely a monster or mechanical being, or is there something organic in there?
Right. I mean, you see with the handyman, you see with the, even in BioShock 1, like the Big Daddies had real people inside, and so it makes you wonder who or what Songbird is.
Yeah, I'm assuming we will not have an answer to that until the game is actually out. Here is Songbird being aggressive, his eye changing because he is upset, and this is actually kind of the sequence you see at the very beginning of the game when you climb the light tower and signal Columbia to your position so that you can travel there. And why I thought this was interesting, and this may be looking too far into it, is that you don't actually witness what that summoning looks like in Columbia, whereas here you're seeing it. So I'm wondering if this is maybe later in the game somebody else has summoned Columbia, and this is me completely speculating. Somebody else has summoned Columbia, and whoops, let me get that video back. There we go. Somebody else has summoned Columbia and is coming up to chase you or something like that. This may also just be another look at what it was like in Columbia when you were up there. Also, Elizabeth appears to be out of her tower, which also makes the timeline kind of confusing. And I know, Andrew, you had another theory on what this might be.
So, it's definitely a little unclear for sure. We don't know if this is, like you said, kind of Booker's ascent, or if this is something later. Also, yeah, this shot in Columbia itself, where Elizabeth's looking at that Monument Island statue, can't tell if this is her actually looking at her statue and if this is some kind of really weird time warp situation, or if this is just, there's a display as you go through the Hall of Heroes where you see kind of this, it's about the Lamb of Columbia, the name of this trailer, where you see this figure that looks like Elizabeth, and it's unclear if this is actually looking at Columbia proper, or if this is kind of looking at the display in the Hall of Heroes.
Yeah, or if this is just basically in a museum.
Sure.
So we're not quite sure what to make of that yet, but there's certainly a whole number of possibilities. And
here's this guy.
We're back to the med room with this character again. This is clearly an important character, otherwise it's shown from 3 different angles so far in this trailer.
Yeah.
And here it's obvious that he has been really brutally assaulted here. You can see his hands are tied to the chair. So it was some kind of interrogation that was going on, and I'm assuming he's no longer alive.
It's true.
He may be grumbling or something, or just barely alive, but it looks like he's been taken out. And it seems like this is a character that you were hoping to ascertain some kind of information from, and were not successful. Somebody else got there first.
Yeah, and looking at his face and this scene, I kind of disagree with what I said earlier. I definitely think this is a character that we haven't seen before because, I mean, he's clearly been just brutalized, and like you said, this does seem to be some kind of founder's facility, so you have to assume maybe for siding with the Vox, any number of other reasons.
Yeah, he clearly had some valuable piece of information that has been extracted by someone else. Here we can see Songbird again.
Man, he just does not
attacking, and this is interesting because this is showing. Here, hold on. I'll show this at. Yeah, there we go. You can get a good sense of what Elizabeth's doing there. So she is freaking out.
She's doing the Harlem Shake. Is what she's doing.
Oh my God! Why would you reference that? No, you're just prolonging something that needs to die. But so this is interesting because I mean you've got some kind of magical energies flying around in the background, and also Elizabeth appearing to lose control.
Right, and this is kind of the first time we've seen that notion since that the very first gameplay demo for BioShock Infinite from way back in 2010, where Elizabeth, from using her power, got a nosebleed, and that was kind of the first time we thought maybe her powers are harming her. And this seems to be like she can't control what's going on. It's unclear if she's producing those effects or if it's something else.
Yeah, or if somebody's hitting her with some kind of magic debilitating ray, or I don't know what happens in Columbia. Maybe that exists. But yes, everything is not well with her abilities. It is unstable. This is kind of a gruesome torture scene coming up here, where you can see the murder of crows really doing a number on that guy.
Pulling out parts of his body.
Yeah, actually, brutal. You know what? Let's just not watch that again. That's fine. I think we covered off on that. Elizabeth again being taken by Songbird, I think, in that instance.
And then here, this is interesting. So as you see in the background there, it says "Welcome to Emporia," and if you actually just go forward a couple frames, as the scene changes, you will see. Oh, it's fine. You'll see another thing in the background to the right that says the Emporia Towers, and this is actually a location that Booker and Elizabeth are exploring in that E3 2011 demo. They're walking through the Emporia Towers, kind of as it appears that the Vox are driving out the founders, driving out some of the richer people who live there. Also worth noting, in that same demo, they say a postman is about to be executed, and he's being charged with this bombing that took place in 1904 called the Emporia bombing. So it does seem like this is an important part of Colombian history, and a location that will definitely play into the game at some point.
I also did want to point out that Elizabeth usually appears kind of frightened or startled or confused in most cases, whereas here she seems very composed and she seems angry.
She seems pissed. Yeah,
she is not happy and seems determined to do something about it. In both of these shots, she is looking at the camera like she has a plan, essentially. So this, I would agree that this is probably later in the game.
Yeah, especially from her outfit and
her look. It seems like she has undergone some kind of not only outfit transformation, but a personal kind of transformation that has made her much more determined, perhaps more knowledgeable, less naive.
For sure. And if you actually want to go back for one more second to that first shot of Emporia, you can also see over to the left here, it mentions the gondola. This is kind of how you're going from place to place. This is, in addition to the skyhooks, you see a lot of kind of gondola stops as you're progressing through the early parts of the game. So it does seem like Emporia is like a major location you'll visit.
And then we go to perhaps the most striking scene of the entire trailer, which is Elizabeth actually looking kind of concerned there. I don't know if she doesn't really have that kind of grim determination she did in the two shots before that. She's kind of saying, am I doing the right thing here?
And as you pointed out earlier, we don't know if this is Colombia. We don't know if this is a tear she's open to some kind of farm in Kansas or something.
It seems like she's on the ground. I don't think this would exist in Colombia. So she is.
I agree, yeah.
She's back down. I don't know if this is a dream.
Yeah,
but
we also don't know if she's controlling that tornado.
She's dangerously close to that tornado if she's not controlling it. So hopefully she is, because I'm pretty sure you would want to be running in this case instead of just kind of standing there.
Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of underlies how many mysteries there still are about this game, and especially about Elizabeth.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as much as we've just talked about what happened in this trailer, there's still a lot of questions about really what's going on in Colombia that we're just not going to have answers to until we actually play the game. So I believe that is the last shot. Then we go to BioShock Infinite. That's the title.
It is, and they announced today that the game has gone gold, so this March 26th date is actually when we'll see it. Believe it or not, it is finally coming.
That is absolutely a date that will happen. No more delays of several months or a month or anything like that. It will be out on March 26th on Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC, and of course, we will continue to cover BioShock Infinite, leading into an eventual review when we get to see if all of this talk we've been having about Irrational's game was worth it, and it winds up being, something that we all hope it could be, which is something on the level of the original BioShock.
For sure. The highest rated first person shooter of all time. From
oh, did you? Yeah, that was in the trailer earlier. I noticed they keep saying that. But yeah, for more on BioShock Infinite, stick with IGN.